Well, Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here with today's Thrive Challenge. And for 30 days, we are doing, and I'm sharing my response and my assignments for Dean Graciosi's 30-day The Better Life 30-day challenge. And he shares that in his book, The Millionaire Success Habits. And you can actually get this book free plus shipping if you sign up for the challenge. At the bottom of the page, you can click on a link. And if you just pay shipping and handling, you can get this book. Awesome book. Dean Graciosi, if you're not familiar with him, is an incredible talent and an incredibly wise man. And he was a millionaire in his 20s, and he went on to, has been a millionaire ever since his 20s. And he went on and wrote a book about the millionaire success habits. Now, these habits aren't a secret. They're available to anyone, but you just have to decide that you want to make them a part of your life. And it doesn't have to be about making money. It can be about whatever you want. But I loved that there's a challenge at the end of this book, because if you know me at all, I love challenges. I love a good challenge. I've done 5-day challenges, 10-day challenges, 14-day challenges. 30-day challenges are probably my favorite, because I think it really takes about 30 days for me personally, maybe for you, to actually get into the process of participating in something. It's really hard for most people to stick with something for 30 days, and that's why the statistics say it takes 21 days to form a new habit. I don't know if that's true or not. I think it depends on what the habit is and what you're trying to create. Again, I'm a firm believer in, and I think that our lives will show us via experience, that it's really hard to form good habits, but they're easy to break. And it's really easy to form bad habits, but they're super hard to break. There's so many examples of that in our lives that each and every one of us can tap into our own experience and know what those examples are for us. But today's assignment, super easy. I almost feel like I'm cheating, because it's actually something that I made a habit back in about 1987. It could have been 1988, but I know it was back in the 1980s, the late 80s. I was working for Procter & Gamble, and I was fortunate enough to be in, one of their management development programs, and there was this really awesome training called Tice training. It was by a gentleman by the name of Louis Tice, and it was one of my first exposures to personal development training and learning about our own personal power and what we human beings are each capable of. And I think that's actually what got me my start into learning about and working with Tony Robbins and so many other personal development coaches. Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Les Brown. There's so many. I mean, there's just like, I lost count and I lost track of how many gurus and personal development people that I have studied with and learned from over the years. But today's assignment, yesterday, day zero, we talked about our why. Yesterday, we talked about our morning rituals and what kind of a morning ritual we have. I actually did Dean Graciosi's morning ritual this morning with the breathing. I added his specific breathing technique to my morning routine this morning, and I found that it actually made it really easy for me to tap into the rest of my morning routine, because instead of just doing deep breathing, I actually used his strategy to focus on my breathing, and it got me into the state and the mindset that I needed to be in to do my meditation much faster and easier than it usually does. So I'll be doing that 4-4-4-4 breathing technique at least for the next 30 days and see how that impacts my other morning ritual things. So do you have a morning ritual? And if you do, are you doing it? Today, day 2, is all about taking and going on a news diet. I talked about this before in other areas and on other, video lives for sure, but just in my life, I coach and I teach a lot of people about letting go of the news. And I think Dean shares in his video today, he's just got like a quick 1-minute video, that back in the 1950s, and it's interesting because my kids and I were just talking about this. Back in the 1950s, almost all of the headlines and news in all the different media, I remember back then we only had newspapers and televisions and magazines. So on Time magazine, I think is the example he uses, about 85 to 90% of the headlines were all positive focused and positive messages. Now, today, we know that 90% of the headlines on the news, on the internet, and we're inundated with so much more information today. The television, I mean, the whole fake news thing, how much of what we are watching on the media and on the news is even real? Most of it is made up for effect and for viewership and for ratings and for reasons that have nothing to do with what's actually going on in the world. They're usually just to get our attention. And so back in 1987 at this Louis Tice training, they challenged us throughout. It was a week-long training program that we went to all day for 5 days. It was a great program. But on the first day, one of the things they challenged us to do is they gave us a list of, I can't remember what they were, but several things that we needed to do throughout this week. And one of those was to stop watching the news, stop reading the newspaper, and stop watching the television news for the week. And after just 1 week of not doing that, number one, I didn't miss it. Number two, I noticed how much better I was feeling about my life and about the people I worked with, the people around me, the training itself, and just everything in general. And at that time, I never went back. I never went back to watching the news every night. And I used to watch the news every night back before I took this training. I used to get the newspaper and I would at least skim the headlines back then. Now, after that, I actually took a job after leaving Procter & Gamble with a newspaper, a big newspaper, and it made it pretty easy to keep not watching the television news, but I was more influenced and impacted by the actual news because I was in that industry for about 5 years. But I still didn't let the negativity of it seep into my life because at this point, I had already had a couple years of kind of shielding myself from that negativity and that negative bubble. So I want to challenge you. If you are a news watcher, a newspaper reader, an online headline skimmer of the news, do this. Take 24 hours off. And I would challenge you even more than Dean is. Take a week off. Take a week off from all of this media and see how you feel. See what a difference it makes in your life. I know for me, it made such an impact in just a week that I never went back to it. And I was able to work in an environment and in an industry for like 5 years that was all about the news media. And I guess that reaffirmed it for me because I know how we came up with headlines and how we looked for the negative emotions and we looked for the triggers that would get people's attention to read them. And maybe knowing that from the inside made it even easier for me to stay on this no news diet. And I also joked over the years that my mother-in-law would tell me everything I needed to know about the world that was going on that was negative or scary anyway. So I didn't need to hear it 100 or 1,000 times. I would get the information I needed anyway. And you will too. I mean, people will use the alibi or the excuse that, oh, if I don't read the newspaper, I'm not going to know what's going on in the world. And I will be the first to tell you, if no one else has told you, it's like believing reality TV is real and not scripted. I know a lot of people, I might just have burst your life bubble by telling you reality TV is not real. I actually made 3 girls cry one day because I told them that reality TV wasn't real and they were just devastated. So I hope I'm not being the bearer of bad news for you, but reality TV ain't real, people. It's not real life. It's not just people videoing other people's boring lives. This is real. This is my reality TV. That's way more real than any reality TV. So don't believe that what you read in the news or what you read online or what you get in the media is real. Who's ever writing it, you always have to consider the source and ask yourself, what's in it for them to be presenting this material in this way to other people or to me? Because there's always something in it for them. And if you don't take out their motive and what's in it for them, you're missing the real truth behind the message. And most of the news and most of the media is designed to manipulate, not to inform. So don't kid yourself into thinking you're being informed by watching the news media and the news sources, because you're not. You're just being manipulated. Sorry if that's a news flash too, but it's time to start waking up, taking personal responsibility for ourselves and thinking for ourselves, not letting other people think for us. And the media is the #1 way that other people manipulate us and try to control our thinking. So don't let that happen. Take a 24-hour diet. If you can, take a week diet. I know I'm not going to be watching the news or paying attention to the media for the next 30 days, and I would really encourage you to do the same. That's it for today. Go out, make it an awesome day. If you want to join me, I'll share the link below for where you can join me with this challenge because I think it's awesome and everybody should do it. Bye. See you tomorrow.